And the truth is people aren't looking at the root cause. Just slap the prescription Band-Aid on. I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution. Educating people, letting them know that there's more available than just a prescription drug, looking at the root cause, looking at the gut microbiome, the gut-brain connection. If you're not eating right, if you're not taking the right probiotics, you can't be healthy.
Dr. Kourtney Chichilitti, welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast.
Thank you, Dana, for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
Gosh, you and I met a couple of years ago over cortisol and inflammation and wrecked nervous systems and just talking all the things. And you have recently, you've been a pharmacist for now over 20 years, and you have recently just retired from your mom and pop shop. Tell me more about retirement, Dr. Kourtney, and what brought you to this place.
So yes, while I am retired from the traditional pharmacy space, I am now very much living my best life as a practitioner in the functional medicine space, really helping people get to the root cause of their issues. And it's just so in alignment with who I am and what I'm doing and my own health journey. And just, it's kind of still a little surreal. It's been a couple of weeks and it's sometimes it's like, wow, is this really my life? I'm like doing all of the things that I wanted to do that, this has been a long time coming, a shift, and it's like, here, it's happening.
I love it. I love it. So you're not faking fine now, right? So to just coin a phrase, like you are empowering yourself to step in and help others in the way that you really want to. Can you share what were the hurdles of being like a corporate pharmacist and then even a pharmacist at a mom and pop shop that prevented you from being able to help people at their root?
So many things. And we've known each other for about 2 years now. And when you met me, my nervous system was wrecked. And I mean, just all of the things going on in my personal life and my work life. I had transitioned out of so many things right after I met you. And I truly believe God puts people in our lives for certain reasons, because you introduced me to a whole nother path of functional medicine that I really it wasn't on the forefront for me. And while I knew a ton about probiotics, I really didn't look at the importance of cortisol and how that's shifted things in my life and has gotten my nervous system under control so that I can do all of the things. And I mean, that's just part one, but really diving into working in the pharmacy and not being in alignment with what I want to do. When you're in the pharmacy, we're under all of these restrictions it's really controlled by big pharma. It's controlled by insurance companies and PBMs, and not to get boring and blah, blah, blah. But when you're in this situation and it literally is a numbers game and you're worrying about, oh my gosh, are we getting reimbursed enough for this drug? Are they paying us enough money? Are we losing hundreds of dollars? And it's not like, what was the reason why I got into doing this? Like, why did I start this? Like 20 plus years ago, I got into this because I wanted to help people, and I was helping people, and I do help people. But when it becomes, you're in this capacity where it's like during the day, it's like, what did I really do to help people? I felt like I went over to help somebody with probiotics or supplements or help them with the problem they're having. And I felt like I had to rush or be a little short with them because I had to get back on the phone with an insurance company or whatever else was going on behind the counter that's like not in alignment with like what I signed up for. But then taking it to the next level of seeing prescriptions come in and, here's an antidepressant, or, here's a sleeping aid, or here's something for weight loss. And looking at these prescriptions, and people start off on maybe one, maybe somebody goes to their doctor and they're perimenopausal and they're having, sleep issues and some chronic fatigue, and they're just feeling anxiety and they're just off and they're just like, I don't know what's going on. And they go to the doctor and they come in with an antidepressant and you fill the script and you kind of are like, all right, what's going on? Then the next thing you know, a couple months later, they're taking something for sleep. They're taking a benzo. They're taking something to calm them down. Then it's like, and then they're getting a script for, something else, an anti-inflammatory or something. And you're like, what's happening? And then the next thing you know, 6 months later, you're filling like 5 or 6 prescriptions for this, like what appears to be healthy 45-year-old woman. And it's like, what is happening in our world and in our healthcare system? And the truth is people aren't looking at the root cause. It's like, just slap the prescription Band-Aid on. And then when I kind of took a step back of like, I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution, looking at, educating people, letting them know that there's more available than just a prescription drug, looking at the root cause, looking at the gut microbiome, the gut brain connection, how if you're not eating right, if you're not taking the right probiotics, you can't be healthy. You can't. It's scientific fact. If your gut microbiome is off, it's causing inflammation. It's causing just, 90% of your serotonin is produced and housed in the gut. 80% of your immune system, that's inflammation, guys. That's the root of all disease, lives in your gut. So if we don't control that, we're not controlling the other things,
So for the person that's coming to the pharmacy and that you're seeing repeatedly to add one prescription after another, what is the intervention that you can have? What is the conversation that you have with them? Is there the opportunity, for you to even interject your thoughts into that, or you're just literally filling scripts and on to the next person because you are working a help desk at that point?
And that's the problem. Exactly what you just said. It's like I'm in alignment to want to help those people. You don't know how many of those people or what they're thinking. There's people that I go up to and I try to say, hey, what's going on? And start a conversation with them. Some people just want to get their prescription and run back to work because they're on their lunch break,
Mm-hmm.
But some people really take what I have, okay, are you taking a probiotic? What else is going on? What other symptoms are you feeling? What other stress factors do you have in your life? And that hustle bustle environment that's really great to be in sometimes is not the way that you should be practicing medicine, right? It happens in the doctor's office. They get 7 minutes. Doctors get 7 minutes with their patients. Good doctors with good ethics aren't able to practice their medicine because of insurance mandates. I know so many doctors that retired early because of this. It's sad. It's you've got 7 minutes to tell somebody your problem and listen and slap a prescription on and be gone. And then in the pharmacy, if we're too busy to have that conversation with them because we've got to be behind the counter at a help desk with insurance companies and dealing with things that aren't what we want to deal with, then it's well, wait a second. What are we doing here? This patient is not getting what they deserve. This person isn't getting what they deserve. And when I feel like I'm doing too much of the other things and I'm not making that intervention to say, hey, there's a better way. Do you want to talk about it or do you want to have a consultation? But I can't consult with every single person that comes in for 10 minutes,
Yeah. So I think the question is more for the listener that's like, oh my gosh, I started on one prescription for this. And then 3 months later, I am the woman that you're talking about that came to the pharmacy over the last 6 months. What do you have? What's the action step that she can take?
I think it's super important for just people to be their own self-advocate, right? It's important for people to really look at what's going on in their health and wellness. Is it something that is a medical intervention that needs to be seen by a doctor? Are we looking at something where we need an X-ray or an MRI where it's something that Western medicine's relevant? That's, Western medicine is very relevant, right? But it depends on what. When it comes to the daily things that people are feeling, this anxiety, chronic fatigue, weight gain, anxiety, even depression, just feelings of I don't really have a lot of energy. When we look at them and it's a balance of life is stressful, our world is stressful, our cortisol, everyone's cortisol needs assistance, right? We're all diving into this and it's well, taking an antidepressant isn't fixing anything. It's just causing more side effects. So it's
But even that, the antidepressant of fixing something, I know there are two things that I want to go back to that you shared. I am the hugest fan of being your own advocate. Watching my husband die and recognizing just all the doctor's meetings and I had to bring a notebook everywhere. And I was like, this doctor said this, but this doctor said this. And let me voice record this meeting because I need to go back and listen to it. Understanding that you have to play an active role in your health is something that I don't think a lot of people are doing. I think that the norm is to assume that you have a white coat and so you know what you're doing and I'm going to just adhere to what you've shared and I'm almost going to check my brain at the door. And empowering yourself to be no, I'm a smart cookie. These are the things that I feel. And you've had your own experience on antidepressants. Can you share more about that? Because you were on an antidepressant for a number of years. How many years were you on?
16.
Yeah. And at the time when you started, did you realize that there would be side effects?
No, I had no idea. I was 19 years old. I was a pharmacy student and I had no idea what was going on. I had these little blurbs of, palpitations, numb hands and feet, shortness of breath. They would last for 30, 60 seconds. When I started getting them multiple times a day, it was like, something's got to give. Went on an antidepressant, was on it until I was trying to get pregnant with my son, was off when he was a baby driving. That feeling came back, went right back to the antidepressant and continued on until I found a better way. So, looking at it from that point of view is like, sometimes you don't always know what's going on. Sometimes, anxiety doesn't come in the form of like a big bombshell. There's, I lost my husband, I'm having anxiety. Okay, that's normal, right? But like sometimes it's just like, all right, I'm 19, I'm living at home with my parents, but I still am really stressed out as a pharmacy student and I'm trying to figure out life and balance everything. Like maybe I don't understand what anxiety is, but maybe I'm having some, maybe my cortisol is out of whack because I spend, I get 3 hours a night of sleep because I'm up cramming for exams and I'm trying to balance things out. So maybe my circadian rhythm's out of whack, which is jacking up my cortisol, which is in turn causing the anxiety. Right?
Yes. But your brain wasn't in that space.
No.
15 years ago, you weren't talking about cortisol, circadian rhythm. So like when you talk about the side effects of the drugs, you mentioned like a lot of these antidepressants and other things have side effects. What were the side effects that you saw? And what are the side effects that maybe we should be aware of?
To be honest, I think that my anxiety was a side effect of doctors putting me on birth control for unnecessary reasons from when I was 15 on, right? So that opens up another, rabbit hole of, right?
Tell me more about that. So This is new information. So you were on birth control at 15. Why?
Because I had endometriosis, which was discovered pretty early on. I would have very painful, heavy periods. I would have them for long stretches, then I wouldn't have them at all. So the answer was the pill, which still 30 years later, it's still the answer to so many things. And it's not the answer. It's never the answer. And I
share more about that. Like, why is it not? I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but let's nerd out on some science. Like, why is that not the answer?
So, these are synthetic things in the body and they're not allowing our body to do what they need to do. And our hormones set forth who we are. They set forth our personalities. They set forth control of our cortisol, our insulin, our thyroid, all of the hormones in our body, all of the neurotransmitters in our body. If one hormone's out of whack, they're all out of whack. And when you're putting synthetic hormones in your body, it just creates a plethora of things. Then talk about what they're doing to the gut microbiome. Again, messing with neurotransmitters, messing with inflammation, other diseases.
But wait there for a second. So even when you're talking about like messing with the gut microbiome, like this is information that most people don't recognize. Like I certainly didn't recognize that until I started learning. So how and why does birth control interfere with the gut microbiome?
For every action, there's a reaction. For every prescription medication that you take, you're utilizing what your body naturally produces to do other things. You're utilizing those nutrients, minerals, all of that to break down these meds and process them. And then your body gets confused because you're giving it these synthetic things. So when you're looking at birth control, you're literally looking at it, inundating your body with not what it needs. And it starts out with micronutrient deficiencies. So you might start seeing, skin conditions or my hair's thinning or anxiety or things that are just off. We just talked about it. 90% of your serotonin lives in the gut. So when you're taking something to disrupt that happy vibe of, wait, what is this? I don't know what this chemical is that's coming into my body. And it's not just the fake hormones themselves. There's other fillers in the drugs. There's other components and how it affects all of the other things. So it's really a compilation of what's going on in the body. So when we take it back to that level and say, okay, for me, I think that's where a lot of my anxiety stemmed. I think that was from when I was 15 on to help control things. And then it didn't really help much. I had surgeries and all kinds of stuff and in the mix. So like, that's where I honestly believe the nutrient depletion and things that were going on in my body that I had they don't teach us that in pharmacy school. They don't talk about this stuff that I've further dove into later in my career and learned by my own stuff and working with patients closely and learning it. This is stuff I didn't learn in pharmacy school. It was how to treat a disease with medication and move on. It was like med school 101. Here's what's going on in the body. Here's what you do to fix it with a prescription and move on. And it was like, wow, like, okay, that was my learning process. So when I was put on prescription medications, it was like, okay, that's what we're supposed to do. This is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. And now you are on birth control for a number of years, and you feel like your anxiety was a reaction to being on birth control. And so then you're on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety med for 16 years. So where was the pivotal moment for you to get off of these medications? When did the dots connect, and what can the listener do that's like, oh my gosh, this is me. I was on birth control and now I'm on an anti-anxiety med. And now what?
So making a long story short, working in the mom and pop pharmacy allowed me to see different alternatives. It made me learn when I met with different drug reps. I was the manager of the store. I did a lot of marketing. I did the Facebook page. I was learning about supplements in a capacity that I never had before. And I was diving in and doing my own research. And then I learned about cannabis and CBD products and what they could do. And then I was trying things, and I was trying things with my customers. And then I started teaching classes on it, because 10 years ago, nobody knew what the heck CBD was. Everybody looked at it like illegal and whatever. And, I started when I got off of my antidepressant, and I tapered off in a week, and I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. And I do want to preface also that I don't ever want to put a stigma on somebody that's on an antidepressant, because sometimes they're necessary, and our mental health in our country it's a crisis at this point. And I think that when people need to do what they need to do to get by, I'm just here to show you there's a better way to look at the root cause in the gut microbiome.
100%, 100%. Right? Yes.
So when I learned how to take probiotics and CBD and learn how to balance this for myself, I think that was the pivotal moment of wow, if I could do that for myself, how many people could I really be helping? So then I really started to dive in and do just that. And it was amazing how it was received, and just starting one by one for people. And it was having that capacity to be able to grow. And, back then kind of almost became I'm starting to do this kind of on the side with people, because just that's what I'm good at. And it's developed over the past, 8 years into my full-time job.
Yeah. At what point did you get your integrative nutrition certificate? At what point were you more interested in food as medicine, really?
I think it was when the doctor wanted to give me a hysterectomy, right in the middle of COVID. And I was having endometriosis issues again, which I now realize are so much triggered by nutrition, the food that I'm eating. It's triggered by different toxins in the body. But I remember I left that appointment again, giving me another script for birth control, and being like, what? And talking about giving me a hysterectomy and starting to remove organs. And I took a step back. I remember I got out of that appointment and I called my bestie, and I just burst into tears. And she is has a very Ayurvedic background. And, and she was like, first of all, you got to get off the pill. And I was like, I know. It's I know these things, but it's I'm in the system right now. I'm living what I know is wrong. I'm like, okay. So at that point was when I really dove into nutrition, and I actually applied for IIN, and I did that program, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And that was really, I'm not a nutritionist, but it dove into the importance of nutrition and different nutrition, ways of nutrition, and looking at nutrition on and off the plate, looking at your stress levels, your creativity, your spirituality, your relationships, your work environment, all these things and how they contribute to you as a person. Mm-hmm. And that opened the door to this is what I really want to do. And I was kind of dabbling, like I said, in the other stuff, and I was helping myself out and starting to help people. And I was like, this is where my heart is. And that was really where everything kind of opened up for me. And after that, it just led to, when I did that, then I wanted to go further, learning more about functional medicine and really, honing in on how to help people. So, that was kind of, I think, the pivotal moment for me.
I love that. And I love that raising awareness always starts with ourselves, right? It always starts with understanding the problem that you're having and leaning into the nutrition. So how did you get yourself off of the birth control? And I want to applaud you for practicing what you preach right now and saying, okay, I'm going to empower myself. Wait, a hysterectomy? Wait, what? We're not removing body parts. So what other elements can I look at in order to dive into this? Because that's huge.
It is. And a big part of it was probiotics. A huge part of it was probiotics. A huge part of it was shifting and learning. At the time, it was cannabis, it was CBD. And these are the products that don't have THC. So it's not like, oh, I'm, getting high. Like, no. This was a tincture that, that there was no cognitive impairment whatsoever. And I know there's still a stigma on that and people don't understand. And since then, the industry and CBD has changed so much, which we can dive into if you'd like. But CBD in general.
Yeah, because you're not using that anymore, right? So yes, let's dive into that, because you were huge fan CBD for years, and that helped you on your journey to get off of anti-anxiety meds, but you're not doing that anymore. Like, let's talk about, like, can you share why?
It's kind of funny. It organically stopped for me. I think as I was going along my journey, I always was trying new things on myself. I've used myself as a guinea pig for the past, 10 years of my life. And that's how I've learned, that's how I'm always trying different detoxes and cleanses and nutrition plans. And I'm always switching things up and trying things. Did it work? Did it not work? Who can it work for if it didn't work for me? With CBD, it was more like, the industry really shifted. I worked a lot with the THC, low THC or TH-free products, where I have hundreds of written testimonies from customers that I worked one-on-one with in the pharmacy and taught classes. And that was really the beginning of my business, if we're being honest. But I think over time, it shifted. I think it shifted a lot with COVID, where it was very easy to go get your medicinal marijuana card. A lot of people went and did that. At least here in Pennsylvania, it was. A lot of people went and did that. And people were just shifting away from getting the more expensive, because it was expensive to get the tincture, a good quality tincture. Mm-hmm. Not all CBD is created equal. So people would go on Amazon, they go to cheap products and get them. And it wasn't like they were necessarily good products and people not knowing what were in them. And then when it became possible for people to get the higher quantities of THC, and they're like, wait, I can take this and I'm going to get high and I can do this. And I think that really shifted and kind of tainted what I did, because I was helping people with not the cognitive impairment, really just balancing the endocannabinoid system, creating homeostasis in the body is what cannabis does. And it was just becoming a place that just didn't feel in alignment with me anymore. And I was just kind of diving into other things, more root cause stuff, versus it wasn't like I was against it. And I still think it has benefits for a lot of people. I just think I even took the bud tender class to do the medicinal. That was very different from what I did with the tinctures to, hey, these pharmacists or doctors are compounding medications for people based on their symptoms, learning that cannabis isn't just CBD or THC, that there's hundreds of cannabinoids in a cannabis plant, and that each one of these we're learning has properties to work against different things in the body. So, while I started to learn more about that, learning more in that field, I just kind of, like I said, I think there's a time and a place, but my interest is lying more with deeper down root cause stuff.
I love that. Nutrition and healing the gut-brain connection and the gut microbiome from all the different ways. And you touched on this also for a hot second, and I want to come back to it, from the quality of whether it's cannabis or supplements or whatnot. You've also mentioned before that the supplement industry also can be very scary, because you don't know what you're getting and how pure it actually is. So can you share in your vast depth of knowledge on supplements and supplement companies that you do work with?
So, I preach this so much to people. It's always the one takeaway whenever I teach a class on whatever it is, supplements, whether it's CBD, whether it's any supplement that you find in the pharmacy. It says right on the bottle, this is not controlled by anybody, right? So this product that claims to have 500 milligrams of vitamin C can have 5 milligrams of vitamin C, or no vitamin C at all, right? So this is a problem. I think there was a Dateline special on it years and years ago of they're not controlled by anybody. Be aware of what you're taking. So the only way to really do this is find reputable companies and doing your own research and learning and knowing. And the companies that you can kind of see are the ones that put patents on things, the ones that really do their research and give you marketing and say, okay, this bergamot is, comparable to the Lipitor that you're on, or, this magnesium threonate is shown to improve your cognitive function by erasing 10 years of your life. These studies that are done that these companies invest in, and they stand by their products, and you might pay an extra few dollars for them, but it's well worth it, in my opinion. I feel so many supplements out there are garbage, and probably, I'm a tell it like it is kind of girl. You know that about me, Dana. So when people will walk in the pharmacy, I'd have my section of stuff that I'd order in, and then the generic version down the other end. And when people will walk that, I'm like, you don't want that. It's junk. Like, come down here. I'll help you out. Come here. I got you. But it's real. And, looking at places like Amazon where people know these good brand name supplements that people will pay for when people are privy to supplements, and they're counterfeit. People slap labels on and do kind of shady things to make money. It's like the world we live in, but you have to just be aware and you have to know what you're looking for. So a lot of times it's coming to, the experts on it. If you want a good supplement, I can hook you up. I can tell you where to go and what to do, but just always beware. Look at brand names on things. Something says it's natural or organic, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy. Just knowing the difference and knowing like this is a reputable brand that's out there, and these people are backing it because they're talking about it, they're learning about it, they're putting studies on it, they're giving, information about it.
I love it. Going back to your anxiety journey, right? Because it has been a journey, even when you were in the mom and pop shop, right? That in that pharmacy, like one thing I love about you, and one thing that like makes us like such like kindred hearts, is that you love to run with your hair on fire. Like I'm a type A, get it done, do it kind of woman. And so are you, but you were still having moments where you were frazzled, right? Because your nervous system was wrecked, even though you were living a life that you loved, working at the mom and pop shop. Can you share more about the transition out of that into working for yourself and the self-awareness that you had around just your anxiety and your nervous system?
For sure. It's almost like one of those things when you're like in it, doing it, you kind of know it's like self-sabotaging, but it's just the way that And that was for me, that was me working in the pharmacy. And at the end of the day, when I was wired up and, would get home and was like, okay, from my day, I think just always, putting my patients first, putting people first, and just really embracing that in my that adds up over time, when you're constantly the doer, the runner, the beer, the busy bee, always wanting to take on more challenges. And let's start a class for that because people need to know more about CBD supplements or probiotics. Let's do it, and I think it caught up with me. It caught up with me big time. And then add a couple of traumatic episodes to life, and my nervous system was completely trashed and wrecked. And this was like maybe about 2 years ago. I left one mom and pop shop and went to another where I was focusing more on wellness and helping him get something started up in the pharmacy. And at the time it was like, okay, this shift feels good. It's like a growth in my career and I'm going there. Right. And I think not long after that, I met you. And I didn't realize how wrecked I was until I learned how to control cortisol. And I learned the different products that were like fire to do that. And I thought I knew how much I knew about probiotics. And I knew there were different strains for things, but I never had just the right formula that was like fire for me. And when I learned that, it shifted everything to the point where I wasn't going through the motions of just going into work and being like, I got to get through this day. And now I'm running with my hair on fire. But when somebody asks me a question about supplements and I'm trying to tell them and they just want me to tell them what they want to hear, and I'm sitting there and I'm getting frustrated when I'm helping patients and I'm like, this isn't what I want to be doing. Like, this is not it. So I feel like when I really kind of came to that realization, and when I learned to take the right things for me to help balance my cortisol and to fix my gut, and then I learned what stress resilience was and was like, then that just took me to a new level in my own business where I was starting to help my people with that. And it shifted what I was doing so that I was like, this is what I want to do full time. I'm not in alignment with just giving out the pills and creating more side effects for people. I want to help people fix it from the root. And I want to help people live happy, healthy lives and understand it too. They don't know if they don't know. And if I don't tell them, how are they going to know?
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite phrase. Like, you don't know what you don't know until you learn it. And when my husband died, if you would have asked me if I had stress resilience, I would have throat punched you. What? like what? Like stress resilience? Like, are you kidding me? Like, have you seen these 3 kids? My husband's dead. Like, I'm trying to juggle all the things, and you're asking me if I have resilience. Like, I recognized that I wasn't showing up at my best. I knew that I wanted better. for myself. And it's the same as you being in the pharmacy, like listening to this, your clients come up to you and you're like, well, do you want to know the right answer? Or do you want to know what you want to hear?
Yes. Over and over and over again.
And that's such a just fire statement, because we have to be mindful enough to say, I want to know the right answer. And maybe I'm not going to lean in and take your advice today, do it. But we have to stop sugarcoating that you want to just hear what you want to hear. And sure, take this, questionable supplement and go about your way and keep living your lousy life. And like, keep living. It's not even like lousy life. It's like, keep living the same thing over and over, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So like, how do we change that? And when you and I first met, it was like, yes, you're running with your hair on fire. You're like, I'm running from this to that. I don't have any time, any patience. And Dana, I know everything there is to know about supplements. And I was like, okay, Kourtney, like, okay, but let's do a reality check. Like, how good do you actually feel? Right.
Yeah, you like grounded me a little bit. I mean, honestly, when I look at you, just came into my life just when I needed you to. And I know that God works in those funny little ways. And sometimes it's like, okay, message received, big guy. Yeah. But like, honestly, like I was very much on a path of where I was at. And I felt like I was being held back in all areas. Like my stress levels, my anxiety, all of the things that I was experiencing were holding me back. And it's like, I thought that I had them under control until I actually did have them under control. Like I thought I knew I was taking these probiotics and I was taking things that I knew to control anxiety and when I needed the CBD and when I was whatever. But I think the thing that was like the turning point for me was the stress resilience. When you introduced me to the products that you had worked for you and you were like, okay. And I was like, all right, well, I'm willing to give them a try because I'm feeling like right now I'm not in alignment with what's going on in the pharmacy. I really want to go and what I want to do is talk about all these great things. And I'm stuck somewhere in the middle. And I couldn't, all of the work I was doing, all of the nutritional eating and workouts and, meditation and journaling and all the things that I was doing right, all the things I were doing right, I still wasn't able to break through until I learned how to get my cortisol in check and to balance things out. And when I did that, it just like opened up everything. Like it just like when I can just kind of not react to something, whether it's in the pharmacy or home being a mom or just whatever it is that's going on. And I can be like, I just, whatever, I'll deal with that later. Or maybe I won't even deal with it at all. Like, does it make a difference? Like whatever. And when I learned that I could do that and I'm like, is this girl? Like, like I think I told you earlier, like when I talked about dinner with my ex-husband the other night to sit down with our son and talk about the school year and all these things he needs to prepare for junior year in high school and blah, blah, blah. And I look back and I'm like, 10 years ago, 3 years ago, if you would have told me I would have sat down and had a cordial dinner with my ex-husband and that it would have, I would have laughed right in your face and been like, what are you talking about? Like, what? I got home and I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
Who am I?
Who am I?
I'm so proud of you. Again, it's what we don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you learn it. And so learning more about the cortisol protocol, the silly drink that is named Happy Juice, literally because it helps you create more serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, GABA, which all of these things, like they're just synergistically blended so that your gut can help your brain and your anxiety show up. And so now when someone says to you, do you have stress resilience? What is your answer?
Heck yeah. I mean, it's like, you need to do this. It's kind of like, when I first started, it was like, okay, this feels good. It's like a nice little energy, supplement for my, coffee that I would get on the way home every day from work to get through the nighttime things of going home and making dinner and homework and wash and all the things. It was like, okay, so I stopped that. That was huge for me. That was enabling my sleep to be better. That was enabling all of the things, my anxiety, stress levels, my chronic fatigue, all of it started to dissipate. But I think it was about 4 months after I started that I was like, whoa, like when I realized in that, like, I don't know what was the pivotal moment, honestly, when I didn't react to something that I should have gone, like that I would have gone from 0 to 100 and exploded. And I was like, whatever. And then it was happening more and more where I was like, okay, like what's going on here? And I think it's just so important. Again, you don't know what you don't know. And to kind of like circle back around to like giving people the prescriptions because they don't know, or teaching them about how to actually work on fixing their gut and hit it from the root so that they can actually truly be doing the right things for their body. I don't know. I think it's just, when I learned it for myself, it just opened up another door of helping people in a different capacity and learning more to take it down to that root cause that I ever so much am evolving and learning, right? Like, I feel like my practice is constantly shifting as I learn more things, and there's always something new and exciting happening in the functional space where it's like, oh, have you done, weird things like, parasite cleanses or the things that people are like, what? But I think that it's like, it's an ever evolving thing where, like you said, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. If you don't know, you don't know. And it's about just taking the first step, right? So solving your gut, like helping to build your gut as your foundation. It's the foundations. Using antibiotics, which is part of Happy Juice, that has all of the third-party studies, the clinical studies, it's patented strains of probiotics to help build that foundation. And now you're not running with your hair on fire. Like, I remember there were so many days when we first met that you would call me on your drive home from work with your hair on fire, like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, like all of these things happened and yada, yada, yada. And I would literally be like, Kourtney, did you have your Happy Juice today? Like, how did today go? And you're like, I didn't have time. And like, do you even know what's going on? Like, Dennis is this and blah, 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 and all the things, right? And fast forward a year, right? And you're like, I have retired from that lifestyle. And now you are opening your own, you've always done coaching, but now you have full-time, you're coaching. So tell us more about your coaching clients, like your coaching practice right now, because you are the bomb diggity on helping women get to the root cause. And I think I know there is so much more credibility. I want to lean in because you've been there. You've churned through the system. You're like, I was on birth control for so many years. I was on anxiety meds. I was living the life. It's not about doing less and meditating more or journaling more. We want to do all of the things. We are doers. We are action takers. We are leaders. We want to do all the things, but how do you do them better? And how can we work with you?
So, even circling back around to what you said about, when we balance one thing, we have to look at the body as a whole. And that's really important. So when we do the things to calm down the hair on fire with the cortisol, it's helping with all of the other things. Is it the end all be all? No, there's a lot of different factors and steps we can take, but it's one of the very best steps to start to help people get things in check. And when it comes down to, yes, it's really looking at what is causing the things to happen. So, right, we can take it to the step of, we can take supplements, we can take different adaptogenic herbs, we can take things in our body, and we can do the external things too, like we said. But when it comes down to it, it's really learning how to control stress, which triggers inflammation. And it's also learning about different toxins and things in the body as well, and how they affect the production of these hormones. So that's what a lot of the stuff that I do in my practice, but it's never just one simple answer. It's a plethora of things. So overall, if people were to say, Kourtney, what do you do in your practice? It's disease prevention. It's really looking at your body in any stage, whether you're coming to me because you have a chronic illness that your doctor is just not hitting on and you've done anything and everything and you just need help. I'm here for it. If you're just somebody who's your average mom just trying to get through the day because you just need a little bit of whatever, I'm here for it. So there's so many different ways to nurture, whether it's a deficiency, an overabundance of something. And it's really just a matter of diving in and looking at each person individually and saying, hey, what support do you need? And what can we do? Can we run some functional labs? Not the same as regular traditional labs. But
no, like we talk about that. Like I did regular labs, and then you had me do other labs, and understanding what's normal is one thing, but what's actually normal for you? Not normal for the United States of America, the average person in this country, but what's normal? What should your aspiration be for those numbers? And you have raised my awareness in a huge way around that, because we're just not educated in what those numbers should be, could be, or what you should aspire to do. But I have one last question for you, Kourtney. If you, in your opinion, what are some of the foundational habits that you think that people overlook that lead them to struggle with chronic illness?
I think that most people are, and it's not their fault. I think that most people, and sometimes me, we tend to not look at some of the very obvious things that are right in front of our face that we can do to be healthy. And it can start with something as simple as drinking proper water, looking at your water supply, looking at the air you're breathing. I know it sounds stupid and silly, but really diving into like the fundamental things that you're exposing your body to every day. And, I know we've talked about this. We talk about it often. You can't live in a bubble, right? You can't avoid all of the things that are in our world, all of the toxins, all of the things, but just being proactive on your health and wellness journey, knowing that, trying to do your best and make mindful decisions, everything you do, doing it with, hey, what's this doing to my body? What's this doing to my family? And just really honing in and making good choices. And if you don't know, to dive in and really be your own advocate to say, what's in my water? Maybe I should get it checked. Or, what's going on with my stress levels? Maybe I should reconsider this relationship or this job or whatever it is that's not in balance in your life.
Okay. So for the girl that's listening, who's running with her hair on fire, what is one thing that you want to encourage her to do today?
Take care of herself, love herself.
Whatever that looks like, right? Take the walk, take the bath, do the thing. I think as women, as moms especially, it's so easy and such a slippery slope to prioritize everybody else and everything else and leave yourself last, only to recognize that there's no time in the day.
Agreed. Give yourself some grace and know that if you didn't check everything off the to-do list, it's okay. It'll be there tomorrow. You did a great job today with what you did get done.
Oh my gosh, yes. And celebrating your wins on a daily basis. Here's a fun fact. It lowers your cortisol. Just 100%. break your arm, giving yourself a pat on the back and a high five. Go for it. Oh my gosh, Kourtney, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for all of this. Have an amazing day.